In a bustling metropolis, the sun gleamed off the skyscrapers, casting long shadows over the crowded square below. People held signs demanding transparency and justice, their voices rising in a chorus of discontent. The atmosphere was charged with tension, a palpable sense of betrayal hanging in the air. Inside a sleek government office, a group of officials sat around a large table, their expressions serious. At the head of the table was Mr. Hawkins, the charismatic finance minister known for his silver tongue and cunning intellect. He leaned forward, his eyes glinting with ambition. "We need to increase tax revenue without alarming the public," he proposed, his voice smooth and persuasive. "Let's create a narrative that they'll buy into." The officials nodded, intrigued by his plan. They were unaware that this narrative would serve as a smokescreen for something far more sinister. Meanwhile, in a modest neighborhood, the Rivera family was grappling with their own struggles. Bills piled up on the kitchen table as Mrs. Rivera opened a letter from the government announcing increased taxes under the guise of public welfare. Confusion and anger washed over her. "They say it's for our benefit. But why do I feel it's just another lie?" she murmured to her husband, who could only shake his head in agreement. Across town, Lucy, a determined reporter, was investigating these tax hikes. As she delved deeper into her research, she stumbled upon documents hinting at embezzlement within the government, a web of deceit that stretched far beyond mere tax increases. "This isn't just about taxes. It's a cover-up," Lucy exclaimed to herself, her heart racing with the implications of her discovery. That night, at a lavish gala celebrating the new tax initiative, Hawkins mingled with shady businessmen. They discussed how to siphon off tax money into their pockets while maintaining an illusion of public service. "The public will never know if we control the narrative," one businessman remarked with a smirk. Outside the gala, Lucy confronted Hawkins as he exited, her voice filled with righteous anger. "You're robbing the people blind. This isn't for their welfare. It's for your greed." Hawkins merely smiled at her accusation, unfazed by her passion. To him, she was just another obstacle to be dealt with. Back at home, the Rivera family watched news coverage of the extravagant gala juxtaposed against their own struggles. Mrs. Rivera's eyes filled with tears as she realized that while they fought to make ends meet, their government celebrated its deceit. Determined to expose the truth, Lucy snuck into the gala armed with her camera and evidence of corruption. She captured Hawkins and his associates in a compromising discussion about their schemes. But just as she was about to leave, security discovered her presence. With adrenaline surging through her veins, Lucy managed to escape into the night, clutching her footage tightly. The next morning dawned bright and clear as she raced against time to publish her findings before the government could silence her. As dawn broke over the city, Lucy uploaded her explosive video to social media. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Citizens rallied in outrage against their government's betrayal. Panic ensued in Hawkins' office as he watched public outrage unfold on screens around him. "Shut it down, we can't let this get out," he shouted to his aides, desperation creeping into his voice. Outside City Hall, protesters gathered in droves, fueled by Lucy's revelations. The Rivera family joined them, holding signs demanding accountability from their leaders. The atmosphere crackled with energy and determination as voices rose in unison against corruption. In a nearby newsroom, Lucy received calls from major news outlets eager to cover her story. She watched from her window as protests grew louder and more fervent outside, a powerful movement ignited by one woman's courage to speak out against injustice. As Hawkins stood before reporters attempting to spin the narrative in his favor, he was met with backlash from citizens demanding justice. The tide had turned. People were no longer willing to accept deception as their reality. In that moment of chaos and defiance, a voice emerged from the shadows of deceit, a voice that would ignite a revolution and remind everyone that truth is worth fighting for. The screen faded to black as sounds of chanting protesters filled the air, a symbol of hope and resilience against corruption, and left audiences reflecting on their own power to demand accountability from those in power.